Rosbifs Rugby need to know about Soyaux Angoulême, SAXV, SAXV as we like to call them. Soyaux Angoulême from Angoulême in the Charente region. They are our boys in Pro Day 2. That's why I'm wearing the t-shirt. And I'm so excited about this preview of all of the previews that we've done here at Rosbifs, your one-stop shop for all things French rugby in English. But let's get into Soyaux Angoulême because I've got plenty to say because they're our boys. We fell in love with them when we first went back in 2023. We were going to a game in Bordeaux and we heard that Soyaux Angoulême was a good place to go. Absolutely loved it. They pack it in tight at Stade Chanzy. Their mascot's a massive purple snail. They fire a massive purple cannon before the start of each half. What's not to love? I mean, the town itself is brilliant. It's in the Cognac region. It's also the home of comic books. It hosts the third largest comic book festival in the world. And there's like comic art dotted, instead of the street art, it's like comic art dotted around the town on walls and sides of roads and stuff like that. And the good news is it's pretty accessible. It's under an hour on the train from 3 different airports, Bordeaux, Tours and Poitiers. SAXV are our boys. Rich and I both support them in Pro Day 2, so there may be a little bit of bias in there. The town, in terms of recommendations, we loved La Cave on... it's in the middle of town, and that's a wine bar that does some very, very reasonable local wines, but we also love a few of these players. They had a brilliant season last year, completely above expectations, still a very low budget. It was their first time in the barrage, or the Pro Day 2 playoffs. They finished 5th and got themselves the enviable task of an away trip to Provence. Might have been better off coming 6th and going away to Colomiers. But it was a historic season for SAXV. And under former ref Alex Ruiz, he's their head coach, he transformed them from a kind of relegation threatened side into the best away side in the league and a real kind of challenger. At one point we dared to dream that they might even get into the Pro Day 2 final. It's thrilling to watch. It's really, really brilliant rugby. They're a young group generally. I think we kind of said on the podcast this week that their mean age, their average age is pretty similar to everyone else, but their mode and their median would be much lower. They've got a few older heads in there, some very old heads in there, but they play with no fear, loads of pace, especially away from home. But key to that is one of the old experienced heads in Ben Botica, still an absolutely fantastic player at this level. We were delighted to have him on the podcast at one point last year. He was a brilliant guest, brilliant player for Soyaux Angoulême still. You know, this is a guy that was top 14 player of the season in his time. Corentin Glenat, the reserve fly half, kind of grew into... Ben had a really nasty injury at the back end of last season. Corentin Glenat came in and replaced him, gradually grew into the role. But we saw in the barrage, and Joe Worsley was very good to highlight it on FI UK when in the live stream of that barrage game, that their attack was just completely different when it had Ben Botica at the helm. And obviously his experience gives loads of, his kicking game brings loads to that team as well, gets them in the right place, because they could try to play too much from in the wrong areas. Another real key asset in the side that was a key player that took ages to come off the bench in that barrage game was George Tilsley. Had a checkered past in his personal life, but from a rugby perspective, he has been fantastic at Soyaux Angoulême. Brings so much physicality at 12, which they need with a kind of younger, lighter weight squad. Critical for them getting over the gain line, and he's still got loads of pace. They really needed more from him in that barrage game, and they took him ages to bring him on. But when he is on and he gives them go forward physicality, you've got Artur Proult, who is an absolute fan favourite of ours at Rosbifs. 27-year-old outside centre, made our team of the season. He's seriously quick, runs some brilliant lines, huge attacking threat, still feels like he could play in the top 14. He looked so good at times last season, and just typified how Soyaux Angoulême played, the kind of attacking gusto and the class that they played with. Looked so in sync at times. The unsung heroes, they are all kind of big forwards, which is the kind of guys that they need, and they probably need a little bit more of. Sekeli Nabu, one of the older heads, 37-year-old for Gianlock, extended for another season, brings a real physical edge to that pack, made a load of turnovers as well last year. Gauthier Giboun, the 36-year-old Spanish international, SAXV captain, he's extended for another year. classic work rate, unflashy flanker, leads by example. And then another unsung hero, Maxence Lemardele, made more appearances than anyone else for SAXV. Not necessarily first choice, so only 15 starts out of 27, but filled in at 4, 5, 6, 8. Top tackler, sort of player that every squad needs. So real unsung hero there. The young players, they have got stacks of brilliant young players. Tried to do 22-year-olds and younger, but I've had to kind of bend the rules because there's a few 23-year-olds at SAXV that I felt I just had to mention in this. Soyaux Diakite, tight head prop, really talented. Came a bit of a mini viral sensation last year when he kind of upended at scrum time one of the Biarritz props, but also does loads of stuff around the park. Really want to see him get more game time. Another brilliant front row player in Mamadou Meite. He's made his signing permanent from Stade Francais. He was on loan from Stade Francais last year, but he's permanent now. Brilliant ball player, like all action around the park, runs some great lines, offloads, good over the ball with jackal threat. Fantastic player, definitely one to watch. He'll be a top 14 player in the future for sure. Adrian Mitu, a quick and powerful back rower. Didn't see much of him, but scored a few tries. First choice number 8 for Romania last season at only 21, so that's exciting. Really want to see more of him. And then the other two 23-year-olds that I've kind of bent the rules for are the Morand Briat brothers, twin brothers, in the second row, Enzo and Leo. Enzo is the one that seems to be getting a bit more game time, but brilliant assets to have two quality young second rows coming through the ranks. Talking of second rows, one of the signings of the season is Richie Arnold. He is a good signing in kind of any side in Pro D2 because of the kind of recent pedigree that he's got. You know, double winner with Toulouse a couple of seasons ago, a Wallaby International at the World Cup, starting second row. The term we phrased, rugby IQ that he's bringing from Toulouse would be huge for any Pro D2 side. But for SAXV, he is the perfect signing because he brings that grunt, he brings that experience, he can organise that line out, help get them around the park and bring some real physical edge that they might need in a few games, need a little bit more of. We saw it in that barrage game. Another interesting signing is Jean-Maurice de Cube. Only made a couple of appearances for Van over the last couple of years, but he's a first choice blindside for Belgium, so I think that's quite interesting. 28-year-old, feels like a bit of a money ball pick, but more importantly for Soyaux Angoulême, they made 30 contract extensions. I mentioned a few of the older boys, but they locked in a few of the younger lads as well to longer deals, guys like Soyaux Diakite, which is important because they've lost a couple of good players. So Rain Barker, they lost, he's a hooker that's gone to Nice. He was really good, but as I said, Mamadou Meite signed on a pretty long-term deal. That's a good replacement for him. One of their key players, one of our favourites from the last couple of seasons, Alex Masabaka, called up to the Scotland squad over the summer and in the Six Nations. Just so quick, so dynamic as a ball carrier at number 8. Top try scorer with 10 for Soyaux Angoulême last year. He returns from his loan. Unfortunately, it was a long-term loan only, and he returns to Montpellier. Cannot wait to see him in the top 14, though, as much as we're sad to see him leave Soyaux Angoulême. So, a lot of information there. As I said, apologies. We could talk about Soyaux Angoulême all day because they are our boys, and we really want them to do well. We think they might not quite be able to back up last year's positions. It will be a real effort if they make the barrage again. But in a sentence, last year's surprise package, Alex Ruiz did a brilliant job with that young group. There is potential for further improvement. Can they do it? Get it in the comments and let us know what you think. Hopefully you're really excited to see them. Ask us as many questions as you like in the comments. Make sure you hit subscribe so you see all of the other Pro D2 previews from us. Rosbifs Rugby, your one-stop shop for all things French rugby. I hope you enjoyed it. Cheers.